Thank you for joining us on Data Cloud Now, where we bring you the latest in all things data in business and industry. I'm Ryan Green, and I'm joined by Yali Sassoon, co-founder and chief strategy officer for Snowplow. Yali, such a pleasure to have you here today. You have been breaking down barriers, clearing paths, creating new opportunities and possibilities with behavioral data for over a decade. From a macro perspective, what's it showing you?
Ryan, look, thank you so much for having me here today. It's such a pleasure talking to you at this Snowflake event. It's kind of incredible what the data has shown us and how that's changed over the last 10 years. If you think about how organizations were using behavioral data 10 years ago, we were really using it in very limited ways. We were using it to understand, should the buy button on the website be blue or green, by powering A/B tests, or trying to optimize our digital marketing spend by measuring the effectiveness of our PPC campaigns. Or we were using the data to measure funnels and try and understand where people were dropping off. Today, we use it for so much more. Organizations use behavioral data to build deep insight into who our customers and our prospects are, what their habits are, how they shop, how they consume media, how they buy, how they manage the time, how they collaborate with their co-workers. They're using the data to understand, where these people are right now. What are they trying to accomplish? What are their needs? And
in real time.
In real time. And then that understanding is being used to power real-time data-driven applications, things like personalization, lead scoring. So sales teams trying to understand, what the propensity of different customers are to convert, or churn reduction. So we're learning so much more from this data than we've ever learned before. And we're using it in real time to drive value in ways that we've never done before. So it's a really exciting time.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into behavioral data. Why is it so important now than ever before?
So data's been really important in marketing in particular for forever, since direct mail marketers started using data to do better targeting. But the imperative to use data today, and behavioral data particularly, is so much great, and there are really three reasons. The first is the opportunities that we have today we didn't have before. Companies have the opportunity to create first-party data, rich data that describes customers doing things that's much, much richer and more granular and more predictive than they were able to do 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. There's great tooling out there to take that data and combine it with third-party data, and tooling to build intelligence on that. Think about the ecosystem of tools in the machine learning and artificial intelligence space, and to store and compute on that data using platforms like Snowflake. And then you've got the opportunity to activate that data across all different channels with things like reverse ETL platforms. So there's definitely opportunity today that there wasn't before. But at the same time, there's a competitive pressure to do things. The bar keeps rising. Marketing is a competitive sport.
And it's not slowing down anytime soon.
It's not slowing. There's only one direction things are going. When you're marketing, you're literally competing for consumers' attention with every one of your competitors, and actually all kinds of other businesses in the world. Like, if you think about all the draws on our attention today, it's getting harder and more expensive to get in front of users and put messages in front of them. And data's a key role, behavioral data is a key role to figure out who are the right people to target and what's the right message to target them with. If your competitors are doing that better than you, they're going to be grabbing share and spending less than you, and that's very, very scary. So there's strong competitive pressure. And then there's pressure from our customers and audience, the people we want to market to. They're getting more savvy, they're taking more control. They determine what app they're in at any one time or what channel they're watching. They've never had so much choice. And if businesses aren't communicating to them with messages that are relevant and content that's meaningful, they're going to zone out and go somewhere else. So the pressure on marketers and on organizations in general to use this data is just enormous, whilst the opportunities are greater than they've ever been before. So,
this leads us perfectly into the modern marketing data stack. What advice would you like to share with the audience watching here today?
Well, I think there's so much potential to use data, and the modern marketing stack provides so many opportunities to take data and optimize every different part of the marketing value chain. All different kinds of campaigns targeting different sorts of users at different points in their life cycle. Given all that possibility, my first piece of advice is to be pragmatic. don't try and boil the ocean. Don't try and do everything all at once. Don't try and run.
There is
before
a
you can
tendency
walk.
to do that.
Oh, I've seen it done so many times, and it's really understandable, but it's a real failure mode. Focus first on like where do you think the biggest difference can be made? Is it around customer acquisition? Is it around customer retention? Is it around upsell? And then what sorts of customers do we want to be focused on targeting? So be very commercially minded about where to focus. Then once you've picked a particular area to focus, start slowly and work up to more and more data sophisticated approaches. If you're looking at more sophisticated approaches to targeting, start with broad segments and rule-based targeting before graduating to smaller segments and machine learning-based targeting. If you're taking more data-driven approaches to measure the impact of marketing spend, start with simpler first-click, last-click linear approaches before moving to algorithmic or mixed media models. So being pragmatic, I think, is the first piece of advice I'd say. The second is relentlessly measure the impact of everything you do and socialize it. I think we're very good, data people, marketers are very good at measuring the impact of what they do, but they often forget to socialize it around the business.
That's as equally important to point one.
Oh, 100%. Because businesses as a whole are trying to get more and more data driven. If there are people in one part of the organization who don't know about success in another part, they don't have the opportunity to learn and embed those sorts of practices in those sides of the business. And it's important that if the marketing team is having success with this, that it's well understood so that they can go out and win more investment for these sorts of approaches. So socializing is really important. The third piece of advice is around cross-functional teams. Using data as a team sport, you need the data specialists, you need the data engineers, the data scientists, the analytics engineers, and the analysts to work closely with the lines of business, particularly with the marketers. And they've got to be one team. You can't be batting stuff over the fence or across the wall. They've got to be working together, iterating, learning, and using the data to deliver better experiences for users and better value for the business. And that's a joint effort. And the last piece of advice I'd say is don't forget about the data. There's a tendency, to go use a sexy new tool to go do some sexy new analysis, but that's only as good as the data you're feeding it. So really make sure that you've got the underlying data to fuel all your different data-driven ambitions.
I want to stay with current announcements. Snowplow recently announced their Series B funding. How are you going to use that capital to help push the business to new heights?
So there are three things that we're using to deploy the capital to do. The first is in making our technology to help customers create great data available to more organizations. So we're looking at launching new lower cost SKUs to help companies adopt us in the mid-market and the SME segments, and invest in our open source, which any company can go and set up and start using to get experience with our technology. The second area we're investing is in making the process of creating data much, much easier. Today, it takes kind of days and weeks from a company deciding they need some new data to actually creating it from scratch. We want to turn that into minutes and hours. And so we're looking at the whole workflow, all the different personas that are involved from inception to actually
more
creating
efficiency.
And using the data and drive efficiency in that process, 100%. And then the third thing that we're looking to do is help organizations get to value once they've got the data faster. And there what we're looking to do is build accelerators, so data applications that companies can implement directly in platforms like Snowflake that take the data and the first-party customer data, the first-party behavioral data, and do something useful for it. So we're working on accelerators to help marketers directly in Snowflake using Snowpark do things like perform attribution and run mixed media models so they can accurately measure the return on their marketing spend and use that insight to optimize their spend decisions. We've got another accelerator to help organizations manage their compliance requirements, because behavioral data is nearly always first party, so it's personal. So understanding what are the different consents from the different users, and for the different lines of data, what can you and can't you do with each, so that it's easier for a compliance officer to have assurance that the data is being used in a way that's compliant. We're looking at a third accelerator around helping organizations build more intelligent segments. Here we're leaning very heavily on Snowpark so that our customers can build predictive models that say which of their prospects and which of their customers are most likely to do things like upsell to a new product tier or churn off a service. Yeah, so those are the three areas that we're investing in primarily.
You know, an incredible journey up to this point. It's an exciting next chapter. Yali, I want to get personal with you for a little bit. What are you going to be focused on over the near term?
So over the near term, I'll be helping the different teams at Snowplow on the 3 initiatives that I just outlined. But really the big thing that I'll be then working on is looking ahead to the different types of data that organizations can create. So today we're very, very focused on behavioral data because this data is so predictive and so explanatory, and there's so much that can be done with it. But thinking ahead kind of 2 to 5 years, we think there are many, many more different types of data that we want to help organizations create. So we're thinking about IoT. We're thinking about organizations that are using AI to create data and helping them do that in a more systematic way to drive value in the business. So I'm really excited about the future of the modern data stack and the future of Snowplow. I think there's a ton of innovation that's to come.
Well, Yali, I really appreciate you joining me on Data Cloud Now. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to sitting down in months and years to come. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'm Ryan Green with Data Cloud Now. We'll see you soon.